5 million jobs. Let me say, a new energy policy is the only strategy that we can follow that will create jobs in every place in America. In every county, in every small town, in every rural area, in every suburb, in every big city. And I do this work now with my foundation. All around America, all around the world. Best way to fight global warming is to prove there's money in it by putting people to work changing our energy policy. And I'll just give you an example of what I'm doing in New York City that could be done just as well here. We have 10% of the public housing in America in New York. Most of them are old buildings. The city of New York, as part of this group I work with, they asked our foundation to help them modernize all the buildings, make them energy efficient. So we're having to train a ton of people to go in and change the glass, change the lights, automatic temperature and lighting controls. You can green the flat roofs, put sod on them, then there's lower air conditioning bills in the summer and lower heating bills in the winter. We're going to create a ton of jobs and cut their annual electric bill from $550 million a year, $550 million a year, to $350 million a year. Now think of it. All the work will be paid for from utility savings, so nobody will have to come up with any extra cash. As soon as we pay for the work, everybody's got lower power bills. You've created jobs, you've reduced pollution, helped to save the planet for the kids, and given the utility back free power. Why haven't we been doing this? They've been sitting on a study which says we wouldn't have to build a new power plant in America for 40 years if we did that. Now think about here. You could do the same thing in every government building, every school building, every hospital, every auditorium, every office building, eventually in every home in America. There are millions and millions and millions of jobs in this that no one can take away from us, and by doing them, we will cut power bills and save the planet for our kids. It's one reason you ought to vote for president. It's a very big deal. Now, second reason you ought to vote for is that she has proposed a short and a long-term answer to the gasoline crisis many people have. Anybody who tells you they can lower the price of oil over the long run is not being straight. The only way the price of oil is ever going to get cheap again is if we all quit using it. The price of oil has gone up because there are more people everywhere in the world who can afford to buy it. And since there's a limited amount of oil and more people can afford to buy it, they're going to bid the price up. But we all know it'd be good for the environment if we use less of it. So Hillary says in the short run, and we've actually met a lot of these people in Indiana and North Carolina, but there are people in America today making a choice every single day between filling up a gas tank to go to work and putting food on the table for their families or buying medicine. So she says it's okay, we should have 4 or 5 months of relief since these people can't run down and buy a new car that gets higher mileage. These people can't sell their homes in this housing market and move closer to work. So she says we should divert oil that's now going into America's Strategic Petroleum Reserve, send it to the refineries. It's responsible. That reserve is 97% full now. We don't need any more in there. I ran it. The president controls that. Anytime there's more than 90% full, you're safe from any emergency. So you can drive down the price about 20 cents a gallon by just diverting the fuel. And then she also believes we should put a fee on the oil companies who are making unprecedented profits for 6 months and let them pay the federal gasoline tax for 6 months and put there and lower the price 40 cents a gallon. It is not a long-term solution, and it is not a pander. There are people making these choices. I'm telling you, I met a woman the other night with tears in her eyes at one of Hillary's rallies in Indiana with a severely disabled child. She came up to me and she said, I'm here because of oil prices and health care. I said, well, tell me about it. She said, well, my husband had a really good business. He was an independent trucker. And we went broke because of the oil prices. So he had to get a job as a contract driver. He's out driving tonight. I'm here with you with our daughter. Now that we work for somebody else, as you can see, there's no way we're going to get health care because of our daughter's pre-existing condition. She said, so what are we supposed to do? Keep eating and risk her life? Or starve so she can get government-funded health care? This woman looked at me and she said, you know, it's been seriously suggested that we should get a divorce and I can get Medicaid and he can earn money. She said, I thought this was supposed to be a family values country and that ain't my family values. I want to be for Hillary because I want somebody who'll help my family stay together, my daughter get health care, and my husband make a living. Now this is the kind of thing we need to face. But look, we just got to get around with less oil. and eventually maybe with none of it. So I'll give you two examples. In her energy plan, she would sell bonds to help finance a much more rapid upgrade by Detroit to provide high mileage vehicles to you made in America. And not just small cars, but SUVs and pickups and eventually even semis. We've got to have a whole fleet of cars that all get higher mileage with known technology. And it's legitimate for us to help them because twice before Detroit's tried to help us get higher mileage vehicles. And we buy them for a few months and the price of oil goes down and they go broke because it costs a lot of money to retool these plants. This is a good thing to do. And then she wants to make sure within 2 or 3 years after taking office that you have access to a really high mileage vehicle. And I will just give you one example. There are many technologies out there. A couple of months ago, she called me from the campaign trail and she said, Bill, I don't know what to make of this. I just met a guy who swears he's driving a car that gets 100 miles a gallon. She said, I'd really like to talk about that, but I don't want to be embarrassed. You call him to find out if he's telling the truth. I said, yes, ma'am. So I did. And I grew up in the car business. I love this stuff, and I work on this energy business all over America, all over the world. So I call this guy, sends me the specs of the car, and we have a conversation. And sure enough, he's one of 50 Americans driving an experimental technology made in Massachusetts, manufacturing in America. And for the last 14 months, he's averaged 105 miles a gallon in town. And then he said, but I only get 70 on the highway. Now, here's how it works. It's basically a hybrid car on steroids. You all know how these hybrid cars work. You know, you drive them on a battery with 25 miles an hour, then they flip over to fuel. So you get about 40 miles a gallon in town and about 30 on the highway. I have one, a hybrid Mercury SUV. So this one has a booster pack that gives you 40 more miles a day on the battery, so that you go to 40 miles a gallon before you go into fuel. Once you do that, you're at 100 miles a gallon in town. This guy said it's like a joke. He never buys gasoline. And all you have to do is plug it in at night. Now, first think what it would mean to your family budget if you could afford that, if you had that car. Second, think what it would mean for our country. We could say to all those nice people who sell us oil every day, charge whatever you want. Because we're going to keep our money at home and our families' pockets and our children's future and the jobs of tomorrow, cleaning up the environment and gaining control of America's economic destiny again. This is a very, very big deal. But you need a president to do it for two reasons. Number one, these packs cost $10,000. Now they'll go down in price as we produce more of them, like all electric products. But in Hillary's energy plan, issued before she ever knew about this, there is a tax credit of up to $10,000 for buying a plug-in hybrid vehicle because she figures it's worth it to liberate America from foreign oil. And I hope you agree with that. The second reason you need a president in this energy fund is they can't produce enough of these batteries now to supply Detroit if they decided to incorporate them and really try to get the cars to you in a hurry. And that's what you need research for, because this battery is made from lithium. Most of it's still in the ground in South America. And there are environmental issues about recycling batteries that have to be resolved. That's what you have research for. When we were young people, President Kennedy told us we had to beat the Soviet Union to the moon. And none of us knew anything about astrophysics, but we figured we could do it. And sure enough, America did, and did it ahead of schedule. Her position on this is really simple. If a nation can beat the world to the moon, surely to goodness we can beat the world to a car battery, and she would like you to ask her to lead the charge so this can be made available to you as quickly as possible. It could change the future forever for America. The third reason you ought to be for